Guys, they're throwing the deportees out of the planes and into the ocean. No, this is not a drill. No, this is not fear-mongering. They're shackling people.
It is. TikTok videos are going mega viral, accusing Trump of literal war crimes with incredibly flimsy evidence. We're going to break this down and so much more on today's episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast, my daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. Guys, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to my kitchen setup, the only part of the apartment we've actually cleaned or organized at all, so it looks okay in this shot. But if you could see around the room, guys, yikes. Anyway, up first, this almost stunned me. Like, it was almost a new low. And I didn't realize I could still be stunned. I didn't realize there was a new level of unhinged, conspiratorial depravity left out there on the internet to leave me truly breathless. But the latest TikTok conspiracy theory, this time is an anti-Trump kind of panicked theory. It actually did stun me that people could convince themselves of this and have it go so viral based on just the most baseless conjecture and easily debunked evidence. TikTok influencers are actually claiming in videos racking up millions of views and hundreds of thousands of likes that Trump is feeding immigrants to sharks by flying them out into the middle of the ocean and pushing them out of an airplane, and that their bodies are washing up on shore in Europe. This is actually the narrative going super viral. Take a look at this first clip with me.
Guys, they're throwing the deportees out of the planes and into the ocean. No, this is not a drill. No, this is not fear-mongering. They're shackling people, flying out into open ocean and throwing them out, okay? The flight patterns, there's people tracking them on this app. The flights going out with the deportees, watching them go out to open ocean and circle back. A family in Italy saw 5 shackled bodies wash up on the shore. No, but seriously, on everything that you stand for, whether it's bullshit, consumerist propaganda, or actual leftist good values, or whatever the f*** it is you believe in, things are getting serious.
So, there have always been people in society with untreated psychiatric disorders. And while we haven't fortunately developed medications that can treat severe psychosis, they sometimes don't take their medicine. And that's always been a problem. But now we give these people cameras and spotlights and they go viral. This video had millions of views and over 800,000 likes, all based on utter nonsense, the ravings of a mad woman that I will debunk after we introduce a few more of these videos. So you see, it's not just one video, it's an entire narrative being spread across the internet. Here's a second video that has, as the time of this recording, over 1.8 million views. Let's take a look.
People tracking the ICE deportation flights have found that some of them are just flying to the middle of the ocean and turning around and coming right back. Also, bodies are washing up on the shores of Spain, cuffed and shackled. You know, the way we saw them getting onto those planes. Also, Sudan launched an investigation because a plane load of their people never arrived and they're still unaccounted for. It's been about a month. Do you remember learning about the death flights during Argentina's dirty war in the 70s and early 80s when they'd fly out to the middle of the ocean and throw people out of airplanes? Because taxpayers were pressing Trump on why he insisted on using those military cargo planes, you know, the ones whose doors open in flight for things like airdrops. When they cost 10 times as much to operate, they don't seat as many people. It was just inefficient, and he insisted on using them instead of, you know, the commercial planes we've always used. And I think we might know why now. And I gotta say, it's shockingly horrifying, and I'm not easily surprised. I don't lack imagination, all right? It would have been nice to live in precedented times, you know, at any fucking point. I didn't think I was going to live to see the American dream die and become a horrific nightmare. But I think that's where we're at, guys. Because I did a deep dive wanting to disprove it, and all I found was mountains of evidence.
Evidence.
So, you know, Did we all die when CERN kicked on the Hadron Collider, and is this hell? Because if this was hell, I mean, it's not any more enjoyable, but at least it would make sense. You know what I mean? Like, are we in hell? Is this hell? It might be.
Wow. There's a lot there, and we will unpack these claims one by one, by the way. But it's not just Miss Eyebrows here who really believes this because of all her research and all her evidence. In the comments section, it's just full of people buying this hook, line, and sinker. Somebody wrote, "Am I horrified? Yes. Am I surprised? Sadly, no." And that comment has been liked 98,000 times. So 98,000 people saw that comment and were like, yes, I agree. Somebody else wrote, "War criminal crimes against humanity," 30,000 likes. Another person said, "We said never again, but here we are again." 5,929 likes. Some of these videos making the same claim are just weird, like this one.
Bacon avocado. ICE is dropping migrants out of cargo planes while shackled over the ocean, leaving them to die.
Now, this next one is slightly different, but it's kind of a similar theme, so I just want to lump it in here and talk about it as well. This is about the Alligator Alcatraz ICE immigration detention facility that they're building in Florida. Let's take a look at this.
Just in case you don't know what's going on, a girl on TikTok came on here and said that one of her neighbors received a government contract asking them to install a bunch of incinerators at Alligator Alcatraz. They're installing incinerators at Alligator Alcatraz. Alligator Alcatraz is on indigenous land. It's like protected land. Do you understand what's going on right now?
This video has 3 million views, and people are eating it up in the comments section. They are seriously suggesting that they are installing incinerators to burn bodies in Alligator Alcatraz, the new immigrant detention facility in Florida. And their evidence for this is this woman reporting that another girl on TikTok says that one of her neighbors received a government contract requesting them to build incinerators at Alligator Alcatraz. That is not information. That is not news. That is like 3 times levels of hearsay gossip. And where is this contract? If this was true, it wouldn't be very difficult for this neighbor who actually received the contract to approach the Miami Herald or CNN or MSNBC and say, "Listen, I got this contract." Those media outlets would verify it, and then they would run with it, and they would love to run with it. They haven't done that because this either isn't a thing and didn't happen and has just been transformed through multi-levels of telephone game into something that TikTokers are now yapping about to millions of gullible people, or they're just like, if there is a grain of truth to it, they're like incinerators for trash, not actually something controversial or strange. If you're going to make extraordinary claims to millions of people online, you should probably have extraordinary evidence, or at least some evidence at all. Now, we're going to get into the specifics of the main conspiracy theory here about the immigrants being dropped off in the middle of the ocean, pushed out of airplanes, and fed to sharks or whatever after this. Artificial intelligence is the future, and video editing is no different. Today's sponsor, Opus Clip, is a pioneer in this space and turns 2 years old this June. I first encountered Opus Clip as the coolest cutting-edge AI video clipping service, but it's evolved into much more than just that. Now, Opus Clip is the leading AI growth tool for creators. Opus Clip now helps creators save time and stay consistent by automating their entire short-form video workflow. With the new auto import feature, Opus Clip can automatically pull in your latest YouTube videos and instantly auto edit your videos into social ready clips. You can also select specific playlists for smarter import control. And coming soon, the auto scheduler will allow you to bulk select clips and schedule them for when you're out of the office or on vacation, so your content keeps going live. This makes it easier than ever to stay active across multiple platforms with little effort. You can try out Opus this clip and even participate in their Clip the Future contest over the next month and get free credits or potentially even win a MacBook Pro, up to $5,000 cash, or other awesome prizes. Head to www.opus.pro/clip-the-future now to check it out. Okay, guys, I don't know why I subject myself to this, but I do for your entertainment, all right? Because y'all are kind of sick. But I went and I did some research on this to see, is there any truth to this? Because, of course, if this was true, this would be horrible. And I've been critical of the way the Trump administration has handled some illegal immigrants, or, even alleged illegal immigrants, that they haven't gotten fair due process treatment. Still, though, the idea that they are dropping them off in the middle of the ocean and pushing them out of planes is extreme, sounds far-fetched, and once again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yet every piece of evidence these people have provided for this theory isn't true. Some of them don't even know the basic facts of the things they're referencing as proof. For example, the TikToker who said bodies are washing up in Italy. No, the reports that I found of bodies washing up of people in shackles are from Spain, not Italy. So you don't even necessarily know what you're talking about. More importantly, even the liberal-leaning fact-checker Snopes pointed out that there is no evidence connecting these bodies to anything related to the Trump administration or even America at all. Their article reads that in June of 2025, reports circulated about several bodies that washed up on the shores of the Balearic holiday islands of Ibiza and Formentera with their hands and feet tied together. The Spanish Civil Guard opened investigation into the deaths, suspected to be murders, at the time of this writing. According to local reports, officials recovered the first bound body on May 18th of 2025. According to Diario de Mallorca, a local newspaper, at least 5 bodies washed up on Balearic Island beaches by the end of June. Police suspected the deaths were connected to people smuggling and migrants attempting to cross into Europe from northern Africa. On June 30th, authorities in Ibiza said police believed the deceased were, quote, on a boat that arrived in Alicante, according to local reports. So this is a sad story and has to do with serious issues like human trafficking, but there's no evidence linking it to Trump or immigration. It's something happening over there, not happening because they're flying planes out into the middle of the ocean and pushing people, and then their bodies are... That's a whole lot, by the way, that's just kind of an insane theory to begin with, but also it's quite a long trip all the way into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and then quite a far way for bodies to wash up. I mean, just the whole thing is far-fetched to begin with, and then they're presenting this evidence that has a totally different, entirely plausible explanation. Same thing with all these receipts they claim to have that show suspicious flight patterns of deportation flights going out into the middle of the ocean and then back. These are most likely either fabricated or they're looking at real flight patterns, but they don't understand what they're looking at. A fact checker for Lead Stories spoke to someone named Tom Cartwright. And you have to understand who Tom Cartwright is he is a liberal-leaning, fierce critic of Trump's immigration policies, who deportation flights the information is not very easily accessible to the public about where they go, but he pieces it together and then creates a database that is then used largely to criticize the Trump administration's immigration policies, which he openly rails against. However, the fact checkers asked him about this outlandish story of deportation flights going into the middle of the ocean, then turning right back around, and here is what he said. On the claim that flight trackers had zeroed in on deportation flights that had circled around in the middle of the ocean, Tom Cartwright, a retired financial executive who has been tracking deportation flights since Trump's first presidency and whose data has been used by major media organizations, told Lead Stories via email, "Based on my work and observations, this is all garbage." He added that no such app exists to track all deportation flights in real time, and when specifically asked if he observed any unusual circular movements over the ocean, Cartwright said, "I see all deportation flight paths and no." So all the major points of evidence and receipts that these people have provided to supposedly support these outlandish claims are totally debunked and don't remotely prove the outlandish and extreme accusations they're throwing around to millions of people on the internet. This is really, really concerning to me on a couple levels. One, just like the media literacy aspect of this, how impressionable people are. They really think that something like this would happen, and no, not a single one of the media outlets on the left that hates Trump would report on it, right? None of them would report on it. No real journalist. But this lady on TikTok looking at screenshots of flight patterns, she totally understands, has it all figured out. Seriously, y'all? You don't think any more critically than that? And it also discredits whatever legit critiques or complaints you might have about Trump's handling of immigration stuff, which certainly has been controversial. And I've criticized on this show when you're just bringing up absurd conspiracy theories and misleading millions of people and scaring them. That's the other problem I have with this. If what they were talking about was actually true, or even like remotely based in reality, rather than Delulu land, then you would be talking about a Nazi-like regime doing this to people, to immigrants. And if millions of people are believing them, all it takes is a couple of those people to be unhinged or crazy, and they might take some pretty drastic, violent steps based on this totally false conspiracy theory they believe because they saw TikTok videos about it. And that would be horrible. And when you have a major platform or you post videos on the internet where they can go viral, you have a responsibility to no one's going to be perfect. Some people are going to make mistakes. They'll make errors, but just to spread baseless crap like this with no basic research, fact checking, or verification and scare millions of potentially unstable people, I mean, you're committing a real act of social sabotage when you do stuff like this. And these people deserve shame, not the kind of bizarre praise and attaboys and viral reward in the attention economy that they're getting for this stuff. It's really terrible. What do you guys think? Have you seen this organically in your feeds? Do let me know in the comments. I love hearing what you guys have to say. I always do take the time to read the comments as much as I can. I get too many these days. I used to read every single one, but now I really can't. But I do take the time to look. So comment with your thoughts down below. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you aren't yet, and do hit that like button while you're at it. Remember, guys, to send in your voice notes and your voicemails for my Voicemail Friday episodes where I react to your woke horror stories and your personal life situations or scenarios to give you my advice, or I can also answer any questions you guys have for me. Just send a voicemail in at the link in the description. And now we're going to yap about something that's really been pissing me off, because there's this ongoing debate over the big beautiful bill, the so-called big beautiful bill. It really, I think, is kind of a big ugly bill in many ways. But Democrats are doing something that really bothers me. There are cuts to Medicaid in this bill, right? So Medicaid is the government health insurance program that was originally for like disabled and the poor, but has really expanded, now covers lots of people. There are some significant but like not huge cuts to it in the big beautiful bill, and several million people would lose access to Medicaid. However, these people who would be losing access are primarily people who would be subject to the work requirements or to additional verification checks or other things like that we can debate the merits of. But one thing Republicans are not in fact doing is kicking disabled children off of government health care. Yet that's actually like the narrative that a lot of liberals and Democrats are running with to smear and shut down any dissenting voice or any advocacy that these programs, which are, by the way, driving us off a financial fiscal cliff, be pared back at all. Anytime they do that, you try to do that, they hit you with the most just dishonest emotional blackmail imaginable. Let's look at this video posted by Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, where she wrote, "Thanks to Medicaid, Dan's daughter Claire is able to get the at-home care she requires without their family worrying about hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. This is who the big, beautiful betrayal will hurt the most." Let's watch this video.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Dan Smith, but more importantly, this is my daughter, Claire Smith. Hi, Claire. What a lot of Americans don't know is that Medicaid covers them. It doesn't just cover people that they may know in their, communities or where they work. It covers them as well. I was someone who never thought I was covered by Medicaid until the birth of my daughter, Claire. I'm someone who has employment-based health insurance, like most Americans do who have health insurance. Medicaid serves as a secondary insurer for my daughter to pick up, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the case of some years of expenses that aren't covered by my employment-based health insurance.
So this video really pissed me off. And the way that it was shared by Amy Klobuchar really pissed me off, because Claire is not affected by any of the cuts in the big beautiful bill, which I don't even support. But like, I just know what facts are. The cuts to Medicaid affect able-bodied adults primarily. There is nothing cutting services or coverage for disabled children. That's not a thing. So you're lying when you say this is who the big beautiful bill will hurt the most. You're just lying, because Senator Amy Klobuchar, she has a staff of legislative aides who have read this bill and know what it does and doesn't do. So what you are doing is lying to the public and emotionally manipulating and gaslighting us, exploiting a disabled child to do it. That is messed up, and it's not okay, and it's not an honest way to engage in debate. If anything, the people like Claire are an example of who Medicaid was meant to serve: the truly indigent, the truly disabled, children, these kinds of things, and who it needs to be preserved in order to keep helping. And if it just continues to grow unabated and continues to have all these able-bodied adults on it, I think it's estimated 5 million that could potentially get jobs that currently don't work, that are able-bodied adults covered on this. Those are people with whom she is competing for care with, who also have Medicaid and can get benefits and get limited provider attention. And these are people for whom are creating a financial drain on a system, creating problems where there may need to be cuts that actually would affect someone like Claire. So the whole thing is just so dishonest, but it's not just one example. They do this anytime you try to cut anything. They find the most emotionally compelling examples with zero regard to whether they have anything to do with the actual reforms or cuts being proposed. Here's another video, this one from the Midas Touch Network, emotionally manipulating us as well.
Hello, Ben, and thank you to Midas Touch for letting us share our story. I'm Sarah Bloom Anderson, and this is my daughter, Audrey. We live in Hilliard, outside of Columbus, Ohio, in Representative Mike Carey's 15th Congressional District. Audrey is 13 years old, and she's beloved in our family. We're so lucky to have her. She's compassionate and loving and an amazing friend. Audrey has an active life. She dances, she rides horses, and she plays baseball. Audrey also has Pura syndrome, a rare genetic disorder. She has intellectual disabilities, seizures, mobility issues, cerebral palsy, and she's nonverbal, but very expressive. Medicaid provides a lot in our lives. G-tube supplies, her wheelchair, her speech device, but it also provides a caregiver for Audrey so that her father and I can work outside of the house, and instead of caring and spending all of our time just with Audrey. Medically complex and intellectually disabled kids like Audrey in the past were institutionalized. They didn't live at home where they were beloved. They didn't attend school where they could socialize and learn life skills. They didn't get to be part of their communities where they're invaluable contributors. When Audrey grows up, she'll need Medicaid too. Medicaid provides for adult day and work programs. She will be able to be part of our community with the people who love and care about her. Audrey's life is valuable as much as any other child. Audrey's life is big. She doesn't need words to be a good friend. She doesn't need to run a marathon to be able to dance. And she doesn't need a job to be an anchor in our community. But she does need Medicaid.
So, wow. I mean, my heart goes out to this family, and Audrey does seem like, beautiful spirit, and her family, I admire them because it can't be easy, but it sounds like they're doing their best with having, this kind of rare disorder. And I don't even blame this mom because she doesn't understand politics or policy. She was asked by Midas Touch Network, a liberal-leaning network, to do this. But to them, I say, F you. Like seriously. What? The dishonesty. Nothing in the GOP's bill would take Medicaid away from people like Audrey. Nothing. Not a thing. Work requirements for able-bodied adults that are expected to result in millions of people leaving the Medicaid rolls, we can debate that. but they absolutely have exceptions for people with disabilities that Audrey will qualify for as an adult. And as a child, that doesn't even currently apply to her, but even when she's an adult, these services are not being cut or targeted by this bill. So all you're doing is exploiting a severely disabled child to engage in emotional blackmail to target your political opponents, to try to stop essentially unrelated cuts to the Medicaid program. I find that honestly despicable and disingenuous and really horrible from any kind of media network, no matter their bias, just to engage in that kind of thing. And it's a terrible, terrible, terrible way to exploit somebody with a disability, to try to use them for your partisan purposes and lie. You're scaring this disabled family with a lie that their health care is going to be taken away by a bill that has nothing to do with them. It's really not okay. And this is one of the problems, that our country is running off a fiscal train collapse, right? We are in massive amounts of debt. We're going to explode the budget even worse, which is one of the reasons I'm against the big, beautiful bill and its massive tax cuts and all this stuff that we really can't afford. But at some point, you will have to cut some programs. And when you do, you have to have an honest conversation about the costs and benefits of what's being cut, not lie to people and emotionally blackmail so you can never cut anything, or they will emotionally blackmail you with completely unrelated sob stories. Like we can't have a functioning debate, a healthy debate in a democratic society when people engage in this. And Democrats and progressive media do it every time any program is ever discussed, even the most minor cuts. And it drives me insane. And I think it's fundamentally, profoundly disrespectful to the actual disabled people involved. That's my take on it. You guys, let me know what you think. Meanwhile, guys, we got to talk about the latest segment going viral on Fox News, which is one of the dumbest and most embarrassing things I've seen. Like my expectations for cable news are so low these days. It's like, what's that game where you're all like trying to go under the is it Limbo? I don't know, where you're all like trying to go lower and the bar gets lower and you have to go under it. I'm terrible at it because I'm big and lanky and not flexible. But that's basically what cable news is. It's a game of limbo where idiots are constantly competing with each other to say the most deranged and embarrassing and incorrect things imaginable about US politics. And this latest segment from Fox News is no exception. So here is Turning Point USA correspondent Monica Page speaking on Fox News, making a series of dubious claims. Let's take a listen.
I just think it's interesting that all of a sudden people voted for Thomas Massie. Like, I don't remember voting for Thomas Massie with this. I remember voting for Donald Trump to get this bill passed. And I feel like a lot of Americans who voted for Donald Trump feel the same way, especially not only with Thomas Massie, but a lot of the other Republicans who are kind of leaning towards no. They didn't vote for these Congress people. They voted for President Trump. They voted for this mandate. And if you're going to vote no on this, then you're voting along with Democrats, especially Democrats like Maxine Dexter, who was on the Hill today dressed in a white robe, who also visited El Salvador to go see Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who killed Americans. This is something that a lot of people are passionate about passing. If you're not siding with Republicans, then unfortunately you're siding with Democrats, anti-American.
Hey, so you just did a defamation? Kilmar Abrego Garcia refers to the illegal immigrant who was living in Maryland who was swept up by the Trump administration and sent to El Salvador. And listen, he is accused of serious crimes. He is not accused of murdering anyone. That's not a fact that even the government has alleged against him. So, I mean, if you're going to be a correspondent and be on the biggest cable news channel, you should probably get your facts straight and not casually accuse people of being murderers who are not. Now, she took to X to post kind of a quasi-apology afterwards, but still, I mean, yikes. That's a bad mistake to make, but I mean, we do all misspeak, I suppose, so whatever. The actual substance of what she says in this clip is brain dead, hyper-partisan nonsense. I don't remember voting for Thomas Massie, referring to the Republican congressman who is opposing the big, beautiful bill. Well, that's because you don't live in his district in Kentucky. A whole district did vote to elect him. That's why he's in Congress. Same with the other members who were elected to Congress and are now not supporting this bill. And in fact, many of them were elected specifically on promises to not add to the national debt, to restore fiscal sanity, to bring the debt back down. And people like him actually want to do that. So they're not going to vote for this massive boondoggle bill that has all of these special carve-outs and all this unpaid for, revenue loss that will explode the national debt. They are actually fulfilling what they promised to voters. And that the fact that, they're agreeing with Democrats, that inherently makes them bad, just is a sign that you're just engaging in partisan tribalist brain rot, not actual thinking. Yes, sometimes you may vote on the same side as somebody who is a Democrat. That doesn't make you wrong, unless you actually think that one side of the aisle is 100% of the time correct about everything, in which case I have a bridge to sell you. And it doesn't make you anti-American to not want to drown future generations of Americans in trillions of dollars of debt. This is you can support the bill, you can oppose the bill, we can have a good faith conversation. No one is obligated to pass the bill just because Trump wants it passed. He is not our king. He's not our daddy. He might be your daddy. He's not my daddy. He's not Thomas Massey's daddy, right? Because they were actually elected. And in fact, Trump campaigned on reducing the deficit, reducing the debt, balancing the budget. And now he's promoting legislation that does not do that. So you could even say, when you say, well, he was elected with a mandate. Yeah, but the mandate wasn't this. It was not this bill. I was just not impressed at all with this clip for so many reasons, but it wasn't a one-off. Fox News contributor Jason Chavez, who used to be a member of Congress, said something similar. Let's take a look.
And so you can either vote with the AOC or you can vote with Donald Trump. So don't tell me that you're a conservative if you're not with Donald Trump. That's not going to fly. You're never coming back, and shame on you. And you get on that plane and try to go home and try to tell everybody, I stood tough. Yeah, I got these big Instagram muscles. Look how tough I am on Twitter. Well, you don't support the president. That's just not going to fly.
Clicks, Jason. Everyone's looking for a click.
Again, this is such partisan slop. No real attempt to argue for the bill here. Just vote with Trump or you're bad. What is this, a cult? No. Here's the thing. I promise you, when this dude was in Congress, he voted on many bills where he agreed with Democrats. Democrats also voted on the bill. That doesn't mean he was wrong to cast those votes. Doesn't mean he was a traitor. I'm sure that, he also probably voted against other Republicans on some issues, because that's what you're supposed to do as an elected official, is vote for what you think is right, not just blindly bend to the will of a dear leader in any party. And if the argument is that voting with Trump to explode the national debt by trillions of dollars is conservative, and voting with AOC to not do that is leftist, then, okay, words have no meaning anymore. Words have no meaning at that point. Again, AOC, a broken clock can be right twice a day. Simply citing the fact that she is against this bill, for reasons other than the reasons that the fiscal hawks oppose it, by the way, totally different reasons, doesn't mean that you're wrong to oppose it. You cannot reduce the complexity of politics to one side always wrong, always bad, vote for dear leader, what he say good. Well, I guess you can, but you just can't expect thinking people to respect you or take you seriously. All right, guys, I can't handle any more of this. All this nonsense today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go. Remember to send in your voice notes. Voice Note Fridays. Love doing those with y'all. And guys, with that, we will talk again real soon.